Fan funding and continuum programs. Welcome to the last week, everyone. I can't believe that we are at our final lesson in Social Media House. This one is going to talk about how to use all the tools that you've learned over the last 9 weeks and put them into action and make some real money. So now that you've built your social media house, you might be asking yourself, what comes next? Well, that's kind of the bad news about social media. What comes next, now that you've opened up Pandora's box, is you need to consistently continue with a strategy that carries on day in, day out, in, week out, to help you push your goals forward. In other words, now that the proverbial boulder is rolling down the mountain, you shouldn't try and stop it. So, I highly advise, after you've gotten the hang of it and you're building your fan base to a point where you feel like you've got enough critical mass, trying a fan funding or a continuum program. To do either one, you must start by setting your goals and beginning to set yourself up for getting your new projects funded. Creating an effective continuum program is not everyone's cup of tea, but it can be an extremely useful and amazing way to get money into your pocket once a month on a consistent basis. The first thing you'll want to do is make sure you have a sizable base to work with. I consider a sizable base a newsletter list of about 1,000 people or more, and 2,000 to 5,000 people across your social channels. That includes your Twitter, your Facebook, and your YouTube. You want to make sure that you're engaging your fans through your social networks, your blog, and your newsletter, as discussed throughout Social Media House, on a constant and consistent basis. You want to make sure that you're always building your newsletter list, tweaking it, and sending it regularly and consistently with clear calls to action, as discussed in week 8. You also want to make sure you're educated about who your fans are and what it is that they want from you. Surveys that were discussed throughout these 9 weeks could be a very useful way to start the ball rolling here. One of the major principles of Marketing 101, if you've ever taken a class, has to do with funnels. Creating funnels is key, and I've drawn one out for you here, taken from my book, Music Success in 9 Weeks, to give you a sense of what it looks like. At the top of the funnel, you're going to bring people in using a free vehicle like an MP3 or a video, something that's exclusive, so that when they sign up for your mailing list, they get it in exchange. The idea of a funnel is you move people down to the bottom of it, and at the very end there's a large offering. I've broken it up by 99-cent download, next moving towards full album or concert ticket prices. Then I threw in a continuum program like a $20 a month club or a 1 song a month or week. Next, you'll find a $2 a month club. Maybe it's a song per month or something simple. Or you could get more aggressive with it and do a song a week or a different offering a week. Further down the funnel, you'll find a $20 to $25 offering. Maybe it's a t-shirt, a hat, some sort of cool merch item that your fans will like. Moving ahead again, $47 for a special event or a bundled offering. Down again, $250 to $500 for a private show. And then the pièce de résistance, your highest offering, would go at the very, very bottom of the funnel. In this case, I've written a $1,000 custom song. When I was building this fan funnel, it was years before crowdfunding started hitting the mainstream. But if you look at it, this could be a very effective way to map out a fan funding campaign, which we'll discuss later in this presentation. So in creating an effective continuum program, you want to begin to think, what can you offer your fans for purchase on an ongoing basis? Is it a membership to a club? Is it photos? Is it videos? Is it a merchandise item? Is it something cool like a fantastic event that they can come to? Are you mailing them something once a month? begin to think. Here are 10 fun and engaging Continuum program ideas. A monthly digital fan club. This means you could record one song or some conversations with you. Maybe it's an interview. Maybe it's something intriguing that you know and like to teach. 2. Special live events with your fan club. Something that only they could get access to. 3. A product critique or feedback sessions. Maybe you could help aspiring artists who are looking to learn by going through a lesson with them on Skype. I often see wonderful singers give singing lessons to their fans. This can be highly effective as a monthly offering. Private gigs or talks or events that use style is another great idea for a Continuum program, as are clothing or merch items of the month. Number 6, seasonal events. I worked for a band for years called Acoustic Hookah, and they used to do an annual camp out. They would play the show plus have other national headlining artists build a big stage and have hundreds, if not thousands, of their fans come on Memorial Day weekend for a big camp out. The festival was so big and got so famous, you could nary find a person in Ohio that hadn't heard of it. It was called Hookahville, and it still goes on to this day. Maybe you do a holiday show. Maybe you pick a certain thing that happens once or twice a year, which is your signature seasonal event. 7. Have a book club or a beer club or a wine tasting once a month. Do something fun with your fans that they can pay you for. 8. Be the belle of a ball. I once talked to a band here in New York City that instead of just throwing the usual show, they made a costume party out of it, and all of their friends and fans came decked to the nines. They decorated the venue, which they took over for the whole night, with streamers and balloons, and they had a masquerade instead of just a simple set. 9. Charity fundraisers. Hooking up with one of your favorite charities and giving a proceed of your ticket sales is another fabulous way of creating a Continuum program that could last. And finally, private VIP fan websites. You could use a site like Ning, poke around and see what other artists are doing and see if this might work for you. I've recently heard of a wonderful Continuum platform where you can easily get set up, and they just take a small percentage of sales, but it's a great way to deliver and maintain Continuum programs. It's called Patron21, and you can find them at patron21.com. Continuum programs, again, take time, effort, and planning, but can be fantastic ways of getting ongoing income. Now we're going to move into the section of our final week where I talk about fan funding or crowdfunding or patronage. I want to point out that you can easily weave in a Continuum program as an offering and part of your crowdfunding campaign. Simply make 1 or 2 or 3 or more offerings, which would be an ongoing monthly thing, to your crowdfunding campaign, and see if it's right for your fan base. Remember, if you do decide to offer it, you will have to deliver once a month, so make sure you have the bandwidth to handle that. So for those of you who have been living under a rock, fan funding or crowdfunding is basically asking all of your fans all at once for a specific amount of time for a large sum of money. This wasn't done back in the day because normally record labels would give you tour support, or there would be ways that artists could make money. You find this less and less these days as artists are funding themselves, and crowdfunding has cropped up in many, many disciplines, not just music. Filmmakers, artists, and even small business entrepreneurs have begun to use crowdfunding to seed their ideas and to make money by leaning on their fans and family and friends for support. I myself completed a campaign at the beginning of 2013, and much to my shock and surprise, I raised $61,000. It was an incredible experience and one that I would like to share the details with you so that if you choose to do something like this on your own, you've got me here to hold your hand. The cool thing about crowdfunding and fan funding is it creates unique experiences with direct-to-fan benefits. You can offer all kinds of things as part of your crowdfunding campaign that you might never have thought to offer in your daily comings and goings as an artist. There are multiple platforms that you can choose from when deciding on a crowdfunding campaign. The four that I think are the most known to artists are Kickstarter, the mother of all, and the one that has the most amount of projects on it at any given time. Indiegogo, which has some great benefits, one of which is you may be able to qualify as a temporary nonprofit and raise the money, which will become then tax deductible for your fans. This could be extremely beneficial and definitely would be worth looking into. Pledge Music. Pledge is amazing and very available to artists, especially for those of you who have larger fan bases and would like to do an effective pre-sale. Pledge will work with you to get your album for sale and sound scanned so that you have a big first opening week. They've recently completed a campaign like this for Ben Folds 5, and you can see that on their website. Another benefit of Pledge Music is it doesn't show how much money that you're looking to get, so no one can judge you on the amount. And finally, Rocket Hub. Rocket Hub is the platform that I use, and I love it. Again, it has its own special benefits. One other differentiator I'd like to point out between, say, Kickstarter and Pledge and Rocket Hub is Kickstarter is an all or nothing website, meaning if you don't raise 100% of your money, you don't get to keep any of it. However, Pledge Music and Rocket Hub will let you keep whatever money you raise. You just give them a slightly larger percentage than if you made all of the money in your goal. This is beneficial because if you don't hit your target, you can still walk away with money to work towards your goals and projects. And I feel like if you're going to make all the effort, you should at least be able to keep what you've raised and not give it all up. Here are 7 questions to ask before you embark on a crowdfunding campaign. Number 1, how many true fans do you actually have? There's a huge distinction, which was coined by my friend and mentor, Seth Godin, where he says there's a difference between friends and friendlies. Friendlies are people that you know maybe on social media, who maybe not be friends at all. Make sure that you're actually working from a true pool of friends, people that you think would actually support you, as opposed to just looking at your numbers and making an estimate. The reason why I prefer working with a smaller platform like Pledge Music or Indiegogo or Rocket Hub is you'll actually be able to get people on the phone who can help you talk through how many true fans you actually have. They have ways of measuring, and they've seen a lot of campaigns, and they can actually ask you the right questions so you can get to the bottom of that. Number 2, how do you communicate with your fans? Is it regularly and consistently? If you made a spreadsheet of all of your fans, can you name at least 20, 30, 40, 50 of them by name? Number 3, are your true fans people you see frequently, or are you only in contact with them online through social media? You want to make sure that you've got a good amount of people that you see and talk to and are in physical contact with pretty often when you begin to judge your campaign. Number 4, do you have email addresses, or even better, physical addresses of your true fans? If so, you definitely want to prepare an email campaign. An email campaign is different and separate from your email newsletter. An email campaign would be a personalized email that you will send to your best friends, your family members, and to people that you really know, love, and trust. This is different from your newsletter. Those people might also be on your newsletter, and you should certainly send a request to your newsletter, which will be differently worded than the one you send to your best friends and family. Next question. Number 5. Do you have the bandwidth and support to handle a campaign? It actually takes a lot of time and effort to do one properly. You want to make sure that you know how to make videos, landing pages, skin your Facebook page, create buttons, widgets, and have an email attack plan that's ready to go. I do not recommend launching a crowdfunding campaign if you're on the road or otherwise busy with other things. You want to make sure that you're focused and dedicated for the full amount of time of your campaign so that you can really give it 150%. Number 6, do you have some high roller friends or family? Meaning, do you have some supporters who will fund the higher offerings? When I talked to Brian Meese at Rocket Hub, he's pointed out to me multiple times that the most successful campaigns are funded by friends and family first. They're the ones that really help get the ball rolling, and they're the people that will start chipping in first. Later on, you'll realize that as you begin to raise money, more and more people join, because as Seth Godin also points out later in this presentation, nobody likes to fund a loser. This means you've got to have some high roller friends or family that are willing to put up money during the very beginning phases of the campaign. I highly recommend that you speak to them candidly and let them know why this campaign is so critical and important to you, and why a big donation, or actually a big contribution from them, would be something that would help get you across the finish line. I had to have these conversations with some of my best friends and even my mother, and it was amazing how deep they reached into their pockets and what the repercussions were. Once the campaign starts going, it really will go well. Number 7, do you have the time to dedicate? I mentioned it earlier about the bandwidth, but bandwidth and support and time are integral here. Make sure that you've got to be available for all of the days to advocate for your campaign. You might need to switch gears, you might need to make videos, you never know where your campaign is going to lead you. So make sure you've got the time. So diving in, the first thing you want to assess is how much money you should ask for. Please note that a vast majority of campaigns are $5,000 and less. If you're working with Rocket Hub or Pledge Music, you can ask them to assess, and they'll give you an honest answer of how much money they think you can raise by looking at your fan base and what you've got going on, and assessing how many people are on your newsletter. You want to determine then what the focus of your crowdfunding campaign is going to be. Are you making an album? Are you marketing? Do you need money for radio promotion or touring? What's the purpose of the raise? Do your research. How much will it actually cost to complete your desired project? Make sure you allocate money for how much it actually costs to launch the campaign. You might need to hire a video editor or a graphic designer to help you with pages and organization. Think about also how much money you made from your art last year. If you only made $500 or $1,000, a goal of $30,000 might be out of grasp. Now it's time for a reality check. Crowdfunding is not for everyone, and it's not easy. When I sent out the email for this week's lesson, I asked you to watch the Amanda Palmer video. To me, it's one of the most inspiring videos that you'll ever see about crowdfunding and the reality of asking fans for money. I want to point out the artist that she talks about throughout that video, who felt like asking was just dirty and that he was begging for money. This is not easy. You might feel confronted or a little bit like a carnival barker. Remember, it's not about the money. It's about the journey and the experience that you're taking people on. If you can shift the conversation in your head, I think you'll have a much stronger and better feeling around your crowdfunding. Your journey has to be desirable for your fans. It's about them after all. If you sound desperate or like you're dying for help or you need something, it might not go as well as you want it to. Also, I would recommend asking for less than you think you can raise. You don't want to set yourself up for a disappointment, and you don't want to set the bar too high. Here's the reality of the first 50%. This comes from Seth Godin's blog. The odds of succeeding with your crowdfunding campaign are 10 times higher once you reach about half of your goal. While this is somewhat self-fulfilling, only popular campaigns get that far anyway. It actually points to an irrational part of human nature. Nobody likes to back a loser. So the cost isn't money, the cost is heartbreak. Once you've committed, cognitive dissonance gets louder, and if a campaign ultimately doesn't work, it hurts. There's so much truth to this, and I actually asked Brian Meese from Rocket Hub about it, and he confirms you've got to get that 50% in as fast as possible. You want to make sure that you have a strategic approach for the first 50% in the door, or else the campaign will not go as well as you want it to. One example of a successful crowdfunding campaign that I love is Marion Call. I interviewed her in Defense of 1,000 True Fans a couple of years ago when she had toured 50 states using nothing but Twitter and her great personality. She took it a step further, and after she'd conquered the US, she decided to go out and kill it in Europe. 945 of her fans funded her for over $63,000. Watch her campaign at Kickstarter. I also wanted to point out a campaign that's recently finished that raised almost $5 million. It's Veronica Mars. There were so many loyal, avid fans of Veronica Mars that they actually funded a feature film. This just goes to show you that crowdfunding is happening in all levels of art, if you want to call Veronica Mars and TV shows art. The point is, people loved it and they wanted to pay for it. Finally, as I part ways with you from this extraordinary course, I want to say something about really succeeding with your goals. Get yourself a coach. It could be me and my firm. It can be someone you met here in the mastermind in Social Media House. It can be a friend, but make sure it's a like-minded kindred spirit who can help push you along. I never would have made it through my crowdfunding campaign without a team of coaches. I actually hired a strategist to help get me through. Plus, I leaned heavily on John in my office and on my staff. Not all of you have a staff, but I highly recommend that you get a team together to help you really pull all the assets that you'll need, even if you're just going for $5,000 or $6,000. That can be a lot of money that can change the course of your career. What happens if you fail? Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. Sir Winston Churchill said that. It's a great sentiment. It means pick yourself up and keep going. With enthusiasm, you never know what can happen around the next corner. So my final thoughts on crowdfunding are, go for it, but remember that crowdfunding is not a discovery tool. It's a tool for people who already have a good, solid foundational base, and I sincerely hope that we've helped you build that here with Social Media House. Please stay in touch with me on Twitter at CyberPR and on Facebook at CyberPR. I can't wait to hear what you create over the next weeks, months, and even years. It has been a pleasure and an honor serving you, and I hope that this course has really helped get you to the next level with your social media. I look forward to crossing paths with you in the future.